So, I just wanted to start out by trying to tell a more lighthearted little ditty. My love for swimming and my fear of public speaking is sort of at opposite ends of the spectrum. And so I was just going to start off by telling a little story about my very first speech that I had to give in 7th grade, which was at Valley View Junior High School in Omaha, Nebraska. And I was going to also say that that is a supreme example of modern architecture from the 1960s, mid-century modern architecture. And I thought Professor Gordon, if he's ever listening to any of this sort of stuff, might appreciate me noticing that. Anyway, the speech teacher at Valley View thought that the easiest way for us to start out our speech was to do a demonstration speech. And so all of my other classmates did stuff like baking and bicycle repair and some gardening, and so they brought in for their props, like, some mixing bowls and some Betty Crocker cake mix, and, they brought in their 10-speed bike and chia pets. That was gardening, so everybody was doing stuff with their chia pets, and I sort of had a different take on it, and I decided that I was going to talk about swimming, and I was going to wear my swimming suit onto the stage and carrying my biggest trophy that I'd won so far, and I just sort of went on to, demonstrate the 4 strokes of swimming. And fortunately today for you guys, I decided to wear a dress. So, anyway, let me see here. So I came to Trinity, as Nancy said, as a transfer student from TCU, and I was on a full-ride scholarship, and it was a very demanding team. We had 2 or 3 workouts a day. We did weights. We had, we were running stadium stairs. It was hot in Texas, and my high school was pretty intense too, and like a lot of my mental and physical energy was taken up by swimming. And when I got to Trinity, I just had a lot more fun. I was one of Chet's chicks, which, I think that t-shirt would not fly today. But, I proudly wore it. I still have it. I wore it to the swimming meeting that we had earlier. And I absolutely adored swimming for Chet McPhee, and Robin Shepard was also the assistant at the time. And I felt like Chet was one of these, he was just such a calm presence. And he was flexible, and he was egoless, and he was kind. And I don't know, because now I've heard some other stories about, I thought that I had more control than I probably did have in the swimming pool, because Luke told me a whole bunch of stories right before we got here, but I sort of thought that I was choosing when I got to swim, but Luke has set the story straight and said, actually, Chet would just tell me, okay, you're going to swim the 100 fly today, and I'd be like, oh, okay. And so at before, I only got to swim a couple different things. I specialized as a sprinter, and I swam the 50 and the 100 free, and that is all I ever swam. And with Chet, I got to swim a lot of events, and I got to excel in a lot of events that I never would have the opportunity of doing, and I loved it. It was good, and I thought this whole time that my friend Chloe, who is the daughter of Nancy Meade, who's here to represent Nancy, that she broke my 100 IM record. But that is not true, and her mother was telling me a little bit of a fib for like the last decade. Yeah, I also had this idea that Chet actually listened to some of my workout suggestions, which as a sprinter always was talking about, less distance, lots of rest, and he, I thought that we would collaborate a little bit on who was swimming what against which team, based on who was, who our who we were dueling against. And, but I'm not exactly sure that was true. I think Chad had a very firm idea, and I think that these ideas were just floating around in my head. But at any rate, the other great thing that I loved about Trinity is that it was a one workout a day situation. So, no longer was I setting my alarm at 5:30 in the morning and trudging through the snow, or actually I never trudged through the snow at TCU. It didn't snow very much in Texas, but, it was still cold, way colder than I thought, and, I was so grateful for, having this sort of program that was a one workout a day thing, and to my surprise, my times were the same, or better. I mean, I think as a sprinter, you don't have to put in all that, time in the water, although, I don't know, maybe you're going to tell your sprinters something a little bit differently. But with the sort of swimming program at Trinity that I got to compete in, I think it was the first time that I actually felt real joy. I'm going to cry again. I'm such an idiot. Oh. Anyway, I mean, and I really did love swimming here, and it really did bring me a lot of joy, and I'm still swimming today, and I love it. And I am swimming on a team called North Bay Aquatics in San Rafael, California, and I am with some of the most competitive 50 to 65-year-old women I've ever seen in my life. And we are all still swimming, we're all still learning. I'm still working on my technique. I'm still thinking about it all the time. And, like after the Olympics, everyone in my pool was like still doing the underwater thing, because that's what we saw the Olympic swimmers doing. They're doing that underwater dolphin kick to the middle of the pool. And we're all trying to emulate that. But I think that it's because of Trinity and the experience that I had here that, made me love and appreciate the sport that I'm still competing in. And then finally, I just wanted to say thank you, because I think part of the artsy side of me is that I'm also very emotional. I really do I honored to be in the same room as these other people, these other athletes and coaches, and I can't believe that I'm actually, in this same group being inducted with all of you. And I was talking to my son about it, and I was talking about, football players that, got drafted to the NFL, and Olympic rowers, and, athletes that competed in 3 sports, and he came back and he's like, "Mom, you're a goat." And I was like, "What?" And I thought that, I actually didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he was, and then my husband was like, "Babe, greatest of all time." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, fantastic." So I'm really proud to be among the other athletes and coaches in this induction, and also my son wants everyone's autograph. So thank you very much.